and tell me what you want to be here, or what you're hoping to gain from the class, and where you're from. Go ahead.
Chikara from the Northern Lights. I just want to get better at recognizing.
Okay.
Guys, I'm from southern Wisconsin. Again, just kind of a deeper understanding of hand matching and some good options to use while hand matching.
Okay.
Broderick, 13 Roads. I'm just trying to be a better fighter in general and everything, kind of taking everything I can. I don't like fighting lefties, so if I can switch it up to a little, get better with both hands.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Sure.
Timit from Polaris. I'd like to get better at fighting lefties or just hand matching in general.
I'm Bramble on Two Rising Winds. I also do Belagard. Things fast because I'm predominantly a lefty. Would love to be a better right-handed fighter too. And just keep my understanding of fighting.
Yeah, sure.
Stay away from the left and try to get better at left.
Okay.
Seth from Florida and Chicago. I guess it's just kind of looking for why I should be hand matching over left or right. Why is it a better option?
Sure. That's great. I'm Peter from Polaris, eastern edge of Iowa. Thanks for coming and taking the class. All right, so hand matching. Hand matching is there's a lot of misinformation out there about hand matching. Like, what have you guys heard about hand matching? Like, what are the benefits? What is hand matching? Does everyone know what hand matching is?
Matching your opponent, sort of. Which sword you have, matching your opponent.
Right, yep. Yeah, so you're mirrored.
You have the same exact lanes that you can strike against your opponents. They can run through, so you can cut down what. It's making it more similar. So you have the same shots.
Okay.
In some ways.
Okay.
I don't know.
No, that's fine. That's great.
A little bit of extra distance before.
You know all the.
Yeah, okay.
What else? What else? Anyone else?
Okay. So it can level the playing field between a taller individual and a shorter individual based on like the shoulder and stuff. You might set something like that in the single short class.
Sure. Okay. Okay. Anyone else? Okay. Another one I hear a lot is that it makes it harder to get stabbed. It makes it easier to defend stabs. It's harder to stab somebody if they're hand matched. I hear that one a lot. What else do I hear a lot? That it reduces the number of target areas. I've heard that one a lot. And these are sort of like partial truths that aren't really true. So we can talk about it. Introduce yourself.
I'm Mr. Treethump of Newton.
Yeah. So when you're hand matching, we have our hands mirrored, right? So some of the things like it reduces the target zones, right? Well, when you're hand matched, you can go outside high, you can go outside low, you can go inside high and inside low, right? If we swap hands, I still have inside high and inside low, and outside high and outside low, right? Those areas are still all viable. It's the same, right? Stabbing-wise, actually, go back. Sorry. Stabbing-wise, like this is the big stab that everyone talks about. It's not there, right? And that's true. Like this stab is a very easy stab to stab. But when we're hand matched, like this becomes an easy stab to stab. That's a great pocket. That's a great pocket. This is still a good pocket, right? Like there's still great target zones for stabbing, right? So it's kind of a partial truth. It takes away the one big like honkin' stab that nobody likes to take, but there's still these like stab target zones. The biggest difference is, as Giles was saying, and I kind of cut him off. There's it changes the distance between your body and your opponent. Okay? So if my hand is inside of Treethump's, the closest thing for him to hit is my outside arm, right? If my hand is inside or outside, the closest thing for him is my inside arm, right? And vice versa, because his hand's inside mine, so that's the closest, and now that's the closest, right? Make sense? So if we swap, and my hand is inside his hand, that's the closest, right? My hand is outside, then the outside becomes the closest, right? Simple enough. And vice versa. You know, my hand's outside, that's the closest. Inside, that's the closest. Okay? So if I can strike both sides, if I'm close enough to be able to get to either side here, right? That's like right at the edge, like I'm just hitting the wrist. And I go, you know, right? Now I'm just at the edge of being able to hit the body. And that was what, like a 2-inch shift, right? Now, if I'm just close enough to hit just the edge, and inside and outside, I can do that 2-inch, well, it's more like 3, and I still can't get him. I go a little bit closer. Very close, right? Another half inch, got it, right? So that's the biggest difference, is we've moved our shoulder, our back shoulder moves away from our opponent, and so our body gets a little further away, right? Versus here, where our forward shoulders, you know, the shoulders are still the same distance, but we've brought our bodies, our arm has to cross our body more to get to this target, right? So it's bringing our bodies closer together. So what does that boil down to? If you're controlling range, there's more of a cushion between arm and body, right? Being able to fight in this zone where we can only hit each other in the arm, right? If we fight only in this area, then really there's only 2 targets that you got to worry about, right? Thus the reduction of target size, right? If we get close enough to hit each other in the body, a lot of these principles kind of go out the window. Then it's just like who's got positional control and who's better, right? Or who's lucky, right? Master. So the target then, if you're hand matching, to gain that advantage, is to maintain the distance between your target and your opponent and you, where the battle can happen between arms instead of in the body. That being said, there are always times when it's the right move to get close enough to strike somebody in the body. You just got to choose when and why. Okay? So, in order to do that, like maintaining that distance is not an easy thing to do. And it's oftentimes you'll be like, well, I feel like I'm hand matching really well, but I'm still getting hit in the forward hip a lot, or the forward shoulder a lot. So that's a distance control problem. So over the years, I've developed this simple drill where you hold your sword out. This is a little longer, but that's okay. And you check the distance between the two of you. So in this instance, we're both like right at the edge of where we can hit each other in the wrist. And that's kind of the target, right? So what we do is we take turns taking a step. And now the start of this drill, you start out very slowly. It's a slow drill, it's a slow practice. So in this case, Treethump will take a step towards me, and I will take a step in retreat. Now the purpose of this drill is to learn that distance that we need to stay from each other. Right? So he'll take his step, and I take my step. We step at the same time, and we judge how far each other goes, and we check. We're both pretty good. Right? And then it'll be my turn to take a step towards him. So I take a step, and he takes a step back, and we check. There I gained a little bit, right? Now the point of the drill is not necessarily to like, all right, I'm going to try to gain distance on somebody. It's to learn the distance. It's not a competition. So in that instance, Treethump would see that and be like, okay, well, I didn't step quite enough, or quite far enough away, so we'll scoot back a little bit and we'll reset. All right, now we're where we need to be. And then he'll step, right? So there, he gained on me, right? I did that purposely, right? So I'm like, oh, okay, right? Like now, oh, that was too far. Okay, here, right? Make sense? Yep. Okay. So to start, just pair off, and we'll do this slowly. Okay? So you're gonna hand match. We're gonna do it with both hands, but we're gonna do it in a controlled, slow manner. Just one step and check. Okay? So pair up with something. Do we have an odd number?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'll partner with somebody.
Give yourself enough space so you're not running into each other.
So just okay. Do you want to do 100 step or slow?
Pretty good.
Actually, no.
Yeah, good. Take big steps, take little steps. You got to learn all of it. It's not all just massive lunges or medium steps.
Again, a little bit. Let's reset just to make sure we're at distance.
I'm doing something too, naturally, that I'm coming off line too. So there's forward and back, but I noticed that when you step toward me to subconsciously keep the distance the same, I in my head I think I knew I wasn't going to be able to go straight back and match, so instead I step sideways back to match. Yeah.
Okay, now switch hands. Switch the hand that you're doing it with. Yep, and you'll switch your feet too.
Just a little tiny bit.
Just, I was like, oh, you got it.
Yeah. Which is just good to.
Yeah.
It's hard, right? You're not usually watching your opponent's feet, so sometimes you just kind of have to inherently. I don't know. There's going to be things you kind of can see. Maybe the size of their stride is noticeable by how much they dip or don't dip, things like that.
No, you're fine.
Okay, bring it in. Bring it in.
Got it.
Okay, so what did you guys notice with that? I mean, it's a very simple drill.
A lot of times you can tell if someone's going to move further by the further they drop initially.
Yeah? Yeah, you can learn those tells by doing this, yeah.
I'm sorry, my hand
Go ahead.
I've been like vocalizing my like putting words and thoughts into words. So just give me a minute.
Sure. Take your time.
My range, having my left foot forward, like my perception is a lot worse than
Sure, you can do it with either foot forward. Yeah, and it's going to change. It's going to change. Or change your perception. You mean like when you're leading with your left hand?
Yeah, when I'm leading, matching with my left, I had a lot harder of a time like stepping with it, like distance.
Yeah. Are you right hand dominant?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's very common. Yeah, usually it's far less practice, less dominant hand, of course. So that controlling of range is something that you've not done enough of to quite as sure.
I mean, it's immediately really good info, but I have to practice doing
this
more.
Right. And that's exactly kind of what stemmed this for me was that, like, you know, the inception of this happened after I tore my ACL and I was recovering, and I would be fighting people and I was like, man, like people are closing on me so much harder than they're used to. Am I just not what I was before I tore my ACL? You know, and so then I was like, well, I need to actually figure this out. Like maybe I'm not seeing it right. So then this drill sort of happened. And because I simplify it, I see it. Without simplifying it, in a fight, you could have 10 fights, and you'd never identify I could never identify the Treethump as controlling the range so much better than I am because I'm not taking the time to pay attention. I'm trying to hit him, I'm trying to block him, I'm trying to do all these other things at the same time. Being tactical. I'm not actually paying close enough attention to what should be on autopilot for the fight. Right? Make sense? Okay. So now the next step with this is you do it as a two-step process. Right? So Treethump would take a step towards me, and then without checking, I will take a step towards him, and then we recheck. That's the next step within a fight. It's not just a one-step and throw situation. A lot of times there'll be like a, where someone goes and then you go back at them, and you got to know how that distance is controlled, right? So we can do it. You go first, and I go. Right? Pretty good, right? And you do that several times, and you switch who goes first. The next step beyond that is to do it as a three-step process, right? Where he steps, and I step, and then he steps, right? And then we check. You gain a little bit. Right? You see? So it doesn't even involve swinging. If you want to do it with swinging, you can, but you tend to lose that what you're trying to identify. And eventually, as you pointed out while you guys were doing it, you want to be able to do it without watching their feet. You watch how their core moves, right? Right? And then we check. Right? So you don't watch you watch their feet with your peripherals instead of, right? Right? Okay, so do that. Let's pair back up and then do it as like a two-step process, and then we'll do it as a three-step process, just to get the feel for it.
Can we start?
Yeah. We'll reset. I'll go first.
I don't. That's right. You're just doing twos, right? Yeah, just do two.
Oh, it's right. Yeah.
All right, cool.
Yeah. No, you're good.
I was like, wait, that's right. 3 is my brain.
No, you're good.
I didn't know if there was like a better.
Because we had alternates, and so the word class we were in the reason we just like to go out to the first.
Okay, now do it as a three-step process and switch hands.
That's one of the hardest things to do in a drill is to not just follow the cadence and to actually just feel like you're each time you're doing it for real for the first time. It's hard to train yourself to do it, but it's
No, you're fine.
helpful, I think.
We can do it again. You want to do it on both hands?
Let's come this
All
way
right,
a
bring
little
it
bit.
in. Bring it in. Bring it in. Okay, what you guys notice doing it like that, where it's a little more to it? Yeah.
Sometimes you actually feel like control that
We're here.
Yep. For sure.
You need to keep in mind if you're going deep, your next back step needs to be a lot bigger. You can get yourself in deep, and 3 fights in, you're like, we're like this far apart.
Yeah. How many of you notice that if you take a really deep step, it's hard to take a deep step back? Like the deeper your step gets, the more important it becomes for you to bring that back foot down. Right? If you don't bring that back foot with you, take your deep step and you don't bring that back foot with you, like you can really, you don't have much the ability to move because you're already all spread out. Right? Yep. Yep. Yeah, these are all great. But as it gets more complex, it's clearly more difficult to control that. Right? Which means that's what you got to practice. But practicing it in a controlled way where you build up to it is a great way to do it well when it's more complex. The more simplified we can make it, we can break it down to its base components. The more you can control the base components until they become like autopilot. Then you can worry about the next step. It's a whole lot less complicated as you step on. The next rendition of this is you get right at this edge and you take turns taking a dynamic step and you strike at each other, right? And you can start off doing the drill quite slowly where he would step and strike, and I would block, and I would take a step and strike, block, and then he would go, right? And I would go, he would go, and I would go, right? So you start off slowly, right? And you can learn how much you're gaining or losing distance on somebody as to the distance you are when you strike, so you check. If it helps you to check, you check. But once you get to the point where, like this, you're gauging that distance easily without having to stop, then you really speed it up, and it becomes a quick motion where he goes, I go, he goes, I go, he goes, I go, he goes, I go, right? Right? All right, so let's do that a little bit. Wake our legs up.
You want me to go? Oh.
All right, so
Oh,
start
you
off.
go first. We'll have you go first.
We'll start off going a little slow. Let's go back and forth for a little bit. You got it back. You got it. Give it space.
Oh, sorry.
Go. Good.
I'm here. I'm gonna get hit at some point.
Absolutely.
It doesn't matter if you get hit.
That's okay.
I didn't get basic, did I?
No.
Okay. Skip off basic.
Start. Now switch hands. Switch hands.
It's fine.
I'm so bad on my left. I'm gonna be.
That's why we practice.
But yeah, sure.
All right, now speed it up. Okay, bring it in. Go a little walking action. All right, so now we've added, with the speed, you're added essentially 3 more things. Right? There's a tempo that we've added, there's striking, and then there's also doing it at speed. Right? What takes what's relatively simple and makes it, there's a lot more going on. There's a lot to keep track of. It makes it more of a combat drill versus a stepping drill. But if you look at it from the roots here and keep looking at it as a stepping drill, and I was watching you guys, you did a relatively good job. Things you need to keep paying attention to is you step when they step. It's not he steps, and you're like, ooh, I'm too close, right? You don't wait for them to step. You got to move when they move, otherwise you're just going to get hit. And continual corrections, right? Like you guys were continually correcting, like, dang, like, you got close, or I didn't go as far as I thought maybe, and then you recorrect, right? But that distance, controlling that distance, is extraordinarily important. Unless we really pay attention to it, it'll just fade into the back. Once you get comfortable with these things, it's also important to maintain the ability to move left and right. Just like you were saying earlier, like you instinctually wanted to step off, right? Now, it makes the most sense when you're hand matched that you're stepping off in the direction, in the opposite direction that the danger is coming from. So, think of it as you're moving your body away from your opponent's strike. Does that make sense? So if Treethump swings to my outside, in order to keep my body as safe as possible, it makes the most sense to move my body away from here. Right? If I move it this way, it's easier for him to still reach the target. Right? You move away from the danger. If he throws to the inside, it's easier to move away this way. Right? Make sense? Okay, so, I mean, that's essentially the next step, is you take turns. So I would throw, he would, he'd move slightly away, and then he would go. I'd move away from that, right? Good. Good, right? And we do it slow so that we can move our feet without making a mistake, stumbling, right? Yeah.
What's the kind of step you do when you have to take a horizontal step that way?
When you're getting hit from the inside, you get it that way. You're moving your back foot. Your back foot leads the way. Your back foot directs it, so you're moving away so I can step off.
Yeah, I almost pivot on the front foot. Like if he was going to aggress on me, like and swing on the outside, I drag my foot behind me into, so my right foot will move first, then my left will follow it into space. So my right foot seeks the right direction, and then just brings everything else behind it.
That's the one that affects the lead.
Yeah.
How many of you have ever found yourself in a position in a fight where you swing at somebody and you're like, I just cannot seem to get them. I have such a hard time like actually reaching my opponent and hitting them. And they seem to be able to hit me whenever they want. Or at least be threatened. Now, the majority of what that has to do with is the simple fact that when you swing, you always need to be stepping. It happens a lot. You'll step and you'll swing and then you'll swing again. And when you're like, I shouldn't get him, you're like, you can't get him. Right? It's those small steps with each swing, incredibly important. So that also stresses this, like all these several drills. So in this one, you do the same thing, nice and slow. We're going to step away from the danger. And you can step away as much or as little as you feel you need to. So if my shot is here, it doesn't need to step nearly as far as if my shot was here, right? Make sense? Right? And then it'll be his turn to go, right? So I'm going to step away from the danger. Okay? And you go. Right? Okay? Alright, let's do it.
You want Jack first? Yeah. Okay. Yeah, yeah.
I'm talking to myself to work through it. You're fine. I've been going to the outside a while, so I was like, inside. Expect to be rid of the inside again.
Yeah,
That's like something to like have to deal with.
Yeah.
That is like hard.
Yeah.
So
I mean, I realize like, I realize to me like I have to switch down as soon as your hand over. Like, back right.
yeah, just always stepping away
Yep.
from where the danger. So if I'm swinging this way,
Yeah,
you're stepping.
all I'm doing is just change. I'm still in position.
That's right.
I'm just like changing my
In fact, you're helping me. Yeah.
right.
I feel that.
All right, bring it in. Bring it in. Yeah, now it's like really easy to mess up your feet, isn't it?
Yeah.
Distance, right? The more complex it is, the harder that is to maintain, right? All right, you see kind of like what we're building towards here. You're building to an actual fight, like what a fight actually would be like, right? So as we get into what you all probably came to learn about, how to swing your sword in match, as we get into that topic, so much of that is predicated upon that range control, or the purposeful movement, right? Because it's perfectly, as we get into fighting, it's perfectly safe for me to be close enough to his body if my weapon is in. So if he throws outside, right, and I'm like, all right, this is perfectly safe. If he throws shallow, right, like, that's not safe. That's not safe. That's safe. This is less safe, right? Make sense? Right. So the distance is critical. If his hand is inside my hand, right? How many of you noticed as you were doing that drill, if you swung outside, where'd they swing? Inside, because that's the closest target, right? Now, if your hand is outside and you're close enough for them to hit you in the body, they can strike you in the body, or they can strike you in the arm and the body, high and low, right? If they're going to come to this target area down here, they got to circumvent your sword. If they're going to come to this target area out here, they're going to circumvent your sword, right? So if your weapon's in the way, they have two target zones they can strike. Now they have one, right? Makes it very simple. Right? If I swing in a way, or if I swing and my weapon is completely out of the way, right? Or if I swing where my weapon's completely out of the way, versus, right? The closest thing for him to hit is here, which my weapon is sort of in the way. He's got to move his hand out of the way of my weapon in order to get to it. Right? Or he's got to come underneath it. Again, coming underneath it like a... He's got to move his hand out of the way of my weapon. Right? If I'm close enough for him to hit my body, there's two, there's three target zones for him to hit easily. If I'm far enough away where he's only able to hit my arm, this is the only thing I have to do. Unless I move my weapon, then this becomes there. Right? Right, okay. So, as we get further into this, that range control is going to stay in a looming background that we need to pay attention to. Alright? Does everyone understand? Does that all make sense? Alright, good. Alright, so, shot tendencies. If my hand is inside their hand, chances are this is the return that's coming. This is the shot that's coming. Because this is the closest thing to them, and it's open. If I throw this and put my hand in the way, it makes it more difficult for them to hit it. But more importantly, in order for them to hit it, they have to move their hand out of the way of my sword in order to hit it. So with a or here, In order for him to get down to my forearm, he's got to move his hand out of the way of my sword. Right? Right. Right, yeah, just like so throw it and leave it up there. Right? So he's moved his hand out of the way. So with a minor adjustment, you know, I can keep myself safe, I can protect my hand. Or versely, if I'm, you know, versus throwing this here, right? He's gonna throw down arm. And his hand is still in the way of my weapon. If I throw this here, he throws at my arm, his hand is out of the way of my weapon. And my hand can still be in the way, relatively easy. But I don't remove all the danger because they can still move and they can still strike me. Or they can step in a way that I don't anticipate. But if the stepping is autopilot, right? And he steps, and my step is autopilot, like now his step comes, you know, like however this happens, like that part becomes autopilot. This distance is controlled. So all I have to do is worry about wherever I move my hand out of the way, which I am in control. So I should be able to anticipate. Right? Make sense? Does it not make sense to anybody? Right. Right. So then we do the same thing. We break it down to its base component. If we remove the movement and just study the hands for a minute, you know, things that we've already talked about. If your hand is outside their hand, this is the closest thing, that's the danger. Inside, you know, it's the opposite, right? And that will continue to be true even once you swing. So you can do, you know, drills like your block strike drill, where you pick 2 target areas. The way we used to do it is we pick like a back body and a forward arm and do it this far apart. And you can still do that. That's good practice. If you're really studying hand matching versus block striking, I like to do it where you can just hit you're far enough away where you can just target the arms. So then it becomes where you can't move your forward foot. Good. 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 Right? You see? So as you do this, you notice that we kind of traded off who had the inside lane. Do you know what that means, inside lane, that I talked about yesterday? There were instances where Treethump would be controlling the inside, and then eventually his hand, like he would reach like just far enough or not quite far enough, or I would block far enough where his next strike, it made more sense for him to come out, right? Because my hand was so far in, or vice versa. And we would basically trade off. We kind of work our hands back and forth as it goes. Right? So let's pair up and do a little bit of that. Hand matching block strike. One swing at a time. You can start slow if you want. Yeah. Sorry, that's okay. Yeah. Yeah, sure. All right, now switch your hands. it in.
Yeah, if you don't work it.
Yeah, no, I'm like,
Yeah.
like feeling that.
Yeah, it's good for you. It's good for you. Okay. Did you guys see how it becomes repetitive? What did you guys notice? Yeah, yeah. Primary being the closest thing to you.
I think I need to start mixing in stuff that targets more of the top and bottom of the arm to try and get it traveling up and down a little bit.
Sure. Yeah, changing levels. Yeah. What else? You said, you mentioned something.
It was kind of easier with my right hand, surprisingly, than
Yeah.
on left-handed.
That's pretty common, especially when you're learning something new with the non-dominant hand. Your other hand has these like habits and tendencies that you don't understand.
Once you take 2 steps out, you're behind.
It's pretty common.
It's like how important it is like taking the block in a specific spot or return.
Yeah, it definitely highlights the importance of, it's not just I'm going to throw to the inside lane. It's I'm going to throw to the inside lane and where's my hand in relation to the tip of my sword. This is totally different than this. Different than this. Different than this. Right? And the difference is that it complicates what they do differently and it also solicits different responses. The more dangerous your shot is, the more consistent their return's going to be. Because if my hand is totally blocking off his immediate return, he's probably going to go somewhere else. Right? Because this is already in the way. It's like, well, that's just not a good option. Right? But that's a great option. So if the inside wrist is something that I really want, getting him to throw down arm, like that's a great way to get it. Does that make sense? So once you see those patterns develop and that you can change the pattern with your hand, how your hand is in relation to the tip of your sword, as you go through that, you can do it slow, right? He returns. How I put my hand is going to start to change. Right? You can start to try to manipulate each other and change where the next shot is coming based upon where you put your hand. Like I said, I can't say it enough. The more dangerous you make the opportunity for them to hit you, the more consistent they're going to be. So then you've got to kind of play with that razor's edge. How dangerous can I make it and still survive? How juicy can I make it and solicit the response I want and get away with it? Right? So I throw that like this, and he comes down arm, I'm probably not going to get away with it. But I get him to do it. And I'm like, okay, so next time, throw it a little bit less. Okay, well, I didn't quite get it. Right? Oh, I didn't need to make it nearly as juicy because he's already clobbered me. And his return was almost immediate. Right? Now, depending upon who you're fighting and the different types of the history that they have within their own fighting careers, Treethump and I fighting each other, we're so used to throwing that main return, over the years that it would take an awful lot for me to convince him to throw, convince him to throw inside from me throwing inside would take an awful lot. I'd have to be like get my hand completely out of the way. So in this instance, say what I want is to come down on this outside arm, right? And I get him to throw. I get him to reach back here. I'm practically have to move my hand all the way out of the way in order to get him to go. But somebody else, if you and I were fighting, and I wanted you to throw here from something like this, you know, it might take me just going here instead of going all the way back. Or vice versa. If I threw and I want you to throw down armed, you might throw it from here. Whereas for him it would take me throwing it like this. Right? Because you don't have the same experiences. This probably still looks pretty juicy down arm, right? That doesn't look like a trap, or does it?
Not really.
Right? Whereas Treethump would look at that and he'd be like, oh. So you would go, and you'd throw down arm, and I'd be ready with that all day long. Does that make sense? So you kind of like find the tolerance in who you're fighting. And it's always better to start safer, especially in a tournament setting. But if you can understand the theory, you can start to manipulate it. So let's start doing some single sword matches and just feel out what people are doing. And you don't have to go full board. Let's just do. Actually, let's do a little bit of winners losers. You guys know how to play that. If you win, you say W. If you lose, you say L. Just do a single fight. Losers fight losers. Winners fight winners, and we just keep rotating around. Let's do that for a little bit. And the point of this is not to, I'm going to clobber all my classmates. The point of this is to take a look at how things are happening and like just try a few things. Try some of the stuff we talked about. Think about that distance we're controlling each other. Alright? Okay? And if you win your fight, if you're fighting consistently with your dominant hand, eventually switch to your non-dominant hand.
Here's a better option, so change your mind.
Okay? Go ahead. Let her rip.
Other times that
Sure, like.
L.
Okay.
It looked like over here. It went towards the
Got it. L.
I think you got this before I spun all of it.
L.
I did.
Legal shot. Legal shot. Not a nice shot. All right, let's gather back up. Finish the fight you're on.
I'm good. I'll take a break.
All right, what'd you guys notice? Yeah? A lot of moving. If you're controlling that range, it involves a lot of movement. It's very dynamic. There's nothing more satisfying than being in a fight and you're just like, and people like step on you and you're just like damn, and you're like, haha, like I just blocked you out and I killed you. You didn't move your feet and you're like, man, I'm good, right? It feels good. It's bad fighting. It's good, right?
I definitely noticed I would get like the arm or something, but then I would be dead because I didn't.
Sure. Sure. There's nothing to this. Anything else?
Stop moving, you die. That's especially if you're trying to exchange with someone who's even a little bit longer than you.
Yeah, if you're not moving, you tend to get hit in the body. Yep. Or you're moving wrong. Okay. What else do you guys notice?
A lot more to pay attention to. Seeing, is it a lot more to pay attention to, seeing which foot they had forward and which sword was forward, and were they switching and changing up different quadrants?
Yeah, sure.
With only having like one real spot to like go for it, I'm feeling myself paying a lot more attention to where, like, it's doing better if I'm paying attention to their blade more than I might normally. Like normally paying attention to like the whole as a person, but I'm fishing for that one spot. So I'm paying more attention where I can fish out that little tap.
Yeah, that's good. All right, let's do real quick. Let's do a couple spars, but I want you guys to fight, right on right and left on left. And then we can actually like talk about the differences there. Okay? Those are not hand matching anymore. So I want you to fight a little bit non-hand matching.
Cross hand time.
Yeah, cross.
All right.
What hand do you want to fight? Yeah, let's do more. You guys want more fighting? Go right there. Okay. Sorry. Alright, bring it in. Bring it in. Now, how'd that feel? What did you notice? Yeah, the body's a much more viable target, right?
Felt like being a lot more aggressive on that range control. Like, I'm like, if I'm going to step too far out, I'd rather do that than not enough. Because there's just less cushion.
I think a lot more. Like, I feel like I have to do a lot more to get them to step in versus the body.
Okay. Did anyone feel like they were in more danger? Yeah? Tell them about what you're saying with the psychological.
Yeah, so one benefit that I've always felt about hand matching is it introduces what I call the third person in the fight, which is the sword being in their face, being on the side in front of you. So if you just like feel, like you don't have to put your sword up or anything, but just feel how you feel. If I'm at you like this, you don't have to move, just like sit there and just feel how you're feeling right now. If I'm like this, right? You're probably seeing, okay, he's gonna maybe swing at me, but as a fighter, you're probably looking at other elements of me, like I can get that hand, I can get that shoulder, I can get whatever. But if I'm like this, now this is kind of in your vision, it's in the way of most of what you want to get to. So you're maybe looking at my forearm, but it's also here, right? And it can be like, just really frustrating that it's there. So many people will swing at the sword, right? Because it's just the most immediate threat versus if I'm like this on you. You're paying attention to where the sword is, but you're probably also paying attention to, everything else. So, if we're fighting like this, you're probably not 100% paying attention to the sword. You're also looking at me. But with this, you're probably you're worried about it. You don't like it, right? It's frustrating. And so if you can take that element away from the person, like give them extra noise. They can't 100% focus on you, they're focusing on the sword. I guarantee they swing so much at the sword instead of you. Or there's so much of something else in front, all they can see is the forearm. They're not looking anywhere else. And that's just such a stance and such a simple choice to mitigate how much of your body they're interested in, which even funnels it even more to a setup. Because if I'm covering the inside and I've got this out in their face, all they're going to be thinking about is something up here on me. Rather than if I'm forward like this with the sword not up and away, now they're looking at all kinds of body parts of mine that I don't want them to be swinging at.
Yeah. There's so many tools with this that the topic is such like a big topic that like it's almost even daunting to like fully understand like all the possibilities. I mean, even fighting in general, there's just so much about it. It's so dynamic and so many things move and change. So far in this class, we've been focusing very much on like pretty regimented like block and return, right? Once you can block and return easily, then you see the opportunity for Treethump said to me earlier is you can fake or throw like partial shots and achieve what you would achieve with a shot without throwing a shot, or gain an opportunity to throw a shot on time. Like do a couple of the ones where that you were just pointing out, where you like your loop and some of these others.
Yeah, sure. Like, if I come out here, he has to kind of honor some strike to this, right? I don't need to actually make a strike there. All I need him, in fact, if I like look like a stab, he's going to push me. So knowing that that's what he's going to do, right? Then I can immediately come in, right? That gives me access to his chest and an automatic block because I knew where his sword was going to go to stop that stab from happening, right? When he was talking about setting me up for that forearm shot, like he was like, Treethump will look at that and go, right? So if he throws that shot to show me that forearm, he thinks he's trying to show it to me to make it juicy. Yeah, he's making it juicy for me. So instead of just going for the forearm, I might just fake for the forearm. He has to pull back, and now instead I come in. Right? So I was saying to him, I'm really bad at block strike because maybe he throws a block one at me, right? And I return, and then when he throws a second one, I'm just like, I don't want to be there. I don't want to block it. I'm going to let him just come through. It's so hard for me to fight that tendency. But that's eventually, right, you are going to want to feel the opportunity when should I block it? Or when is he really throwing at my sword, not even at me? Like that's nowhere close to throwing at me.
Right.
So if he's going to throw at me like from here, right, just let him come through on the swing, He's through already, I don't have to worry about it. But that, you have to have a lot of experience with the rein control to feel comfortable. You had a question?
Yeah, well, because you went for the stab, and I was just wondering, so when you're doing kind of like the fake stabs, are you waiting for the reaction to go into the block, or are you just automatically going into it?
So, I mean, this starts to get more into like the fakes, like the theory behind all those, but sometimes you have to make it a real threat first.
Yeah.
They don't know that it's a stab they have to worry about. So I might have to set him up by getting him like away from that outside, right? I might have to like throw in here so he's opened it, and then might really just try to catch that.
Yeah.
So if I can throw that at him and catch him just once, twice, and I've shown him this thing that's a threat, it can get him. Then the next time when he sees me do that same motion, he's rushing.
Yeah.
So now I can employ that.
Yeah, or even you can throw that stab and make it so that it's like there, and throw it safely, because to actually get this and get that stab safe, but I'm not 100% safe. But I can do the same thing and be like here, and if he moves away just a little bit, he's like, oh man, that was close. But I maintain 100% safety.
Yeah.
So you're like,
And you're stepping at the same time, right?
Yeah. Sometimes just showing them you want it
Yeah.
is enough, so you can safely communicate, I want that.
one of the biggest fakes that I use hand matching is a stutter, is like showing them that I want a gut stab. Where you're like, and as soon as they move their hand down, I break my tip up, and strike them in the wrist. It's one of I use that more than I use practically anything else. Between that and showing them that, like those are the two things that I use very, very much. And it's very rarely do I have to stab them in order for them to be scared of that. It's a base instinct to not want to get stabbed. So, I mean, I can show you, like, even from this distance, like, that looks like I'm going to get you.
It's like, oh,
No way. Right.
yeah. You're just like tensing up because you're like, don't want to get
And
stabbed.
depending upon who it is, you're going to have to show them more or less than you need to, right? Like, you feel like it's coming, right? But I could get it if I really lay out. But for the most part, I'm not going to lay out like that, right? You're too far away, right?
My gut reaction.
Yeah.
It opens that up.
Sure, but that's why I gotta stay far enough away. Because if I get close enough where you can actually hit you, then it comes down. But if I'm here, right? If I stay this distance away, maybe like off the pop. Yeah, sure.
I'm also hurting myself.
Yeah, right. And if I see you leave your feet, it's on like Donkey Kong, right? Right? I mean, there's no way. Sure feels like it, right? As you develop more things, it's always important to pay attention to how much motion is needed, and then once I steal some motion away, like what opportunity does that give me? Or when it's time to throw off time, where like that's an off time throw, right? Or like what does that achieve me, right? Like when in that instance is it time to throw? When is it not? The other important subject that I want to move to here, that we can get into more of that. Do you guys have any questions at this point? Like basically just like shoveling information. They're all good. Is there any of this that you want to like circle back to? Where you're like, I understand what you said, but I don't really know what you said.
Just interested in trying out the range stuff. Like trying to like figure that out.
Yeah, okay. We'll cover one more thing, and then we can do some sparring, and we can just you guys have to practice a little bit. As you're fighting, what you will discover, in order, if somebody is fighting well and their guard is a good guard, some people this won't matter because they don't have a good passive guard, they don't have like a good baseline where you have to work against. But if you're fighting somebody who's competent with single sword especially, their guard is going to be in the way. And the more you want to hit them, the more you have to move your hand out of the way of their weapon, right? So oftentimes, it's more beneficial to just wait for them to move their hand out. If I want to try to kill Treethump on an opener, I'm going to have to move my hand outside of his weapon, right? I'm not just going to be able to be like, hit him. I'd go buy a lottery ticket, all right?
As you can see, if you're looking at me.
Or vice versa, right? We'd probably say the same, right? So, like, just killing somebody with speed, at a certain point, that's going to stop. Because they're going to get good enough at blocking your openers that that's no longer an opportunity. It's just a good way to get killed. Because the more they block your speed opener, the more you feel like you got to reach and go outside to hit them, right? So if you start the fight with something that looks threatening, but you're not moving your hand out of the way, then you can solicit something that is safer. So, you know, that's threatening to his wrist. He's got to respond to it. I have all like a juicy target here, and a juicy target here, right? Especially if I can convince him to reach back here, like, and then that at his wrist is relatively safe. It's my hand still, right? Or conversely, if I give him this, that's incredibly safe, right? And this first shot, it's threatening enough that he has to respond to it, and it gives him something to be like, it's so juicy, like, I want it, right? So, my point is that a great tactic to take home from this is to just wait for them to move their hand out of the way. You don't have to do it. It's great and flashy to be like, kill somebody with this big, huge, looping wrap, chop, craziness, or a money shot. But it's even better to be safe 100% of the time. And where your hand never gets out of the way, you never really are in danger. It's a very simple fight. Right?
Is this what you do against people who want to keep their guard really back and just kind of range control you until they feel comfortable throwing?
I often do that. People that range control me really, really well, their feet are faster than mine. I'll wait for them to move their feet. So if I keep stepping on Treethump and he just does a good job of staying away from me and I can never like, I can't quite get to him, you know, I'll wait for them to step and I'll either step forward or step less back, you know, so that I can actually have a little bit of a fight or they're within range. And then I'll positionally try to get them. Right? That's the step. Exactly. And if he wants to fake it'll be off in the races where I'm chasing him down while I'm trying to hang and bang him.
You're kind of aware of like the tempo of the step back and forth, and then breaking it and step in.
Yeah, once they lift up that forward foot, like when that forward foot comes up, he can either that foot comes up, always waits on his back foot, he can't move his back leg. Unless he does like a one-legged hop. Right? This foot comes up, this foot can either come forward or backwards or side to side. So he's only changing where this hip is going. Most likely it's going to go like towards you. Or it's some variation of towards you. But that's when I can move and he can't just immediately adjust. Does that make sense?
single blue tournament, I had to do exactly that with one of the opponents that I was fighting, because I was finding all they were doing was stepping on me as I stepped on them, and just trying to keep circling around to my arm. And by the nature of them, like, and I kept missing, but I saw it was just a matter of time before they were going to catch it. So instead, I invited them to just come to me. And all I did was wait until they stepped. Because they had, I'm moving away, which means come to me, so they start obliging me and coming to me. And then I can just peripherally watch that front foot. And the second they move that front foot, I choose to move in and do my thing. They're static, they can't move, they can't go anywhere. So you kind of have them.
Yeah, you have a window where you've got the range that you want, and they don't want it. Until they survive and get away.
I take a big step back. Oh shit! I was too slow to back up.
Okay. Let's do some fighting. Let's get some sparring going. Just start feeling things out.
So out of that, what was like
I want you guys just to spar, just like think about the things we've spoken about. Try to put things into practice.
I might ask about more.
Oh, what do you get? No, it's fine. Okay. I would say I should take it for 90. If I got you, I think it was sorry about that.
I move in a way, and that's like the one that is like, I'm so the card if I own it enough, I'm just gonna choose it.
Let's go back to the second one.
Mine was late.
You like
stab it.
Okay.
What arm do you want?
I don't care. I'll do whatever. I'm just like practicing combos. No, it like came over. It's like right on the joint.
But yeah. Right, not winners losers don't matter.
Thinking about going for a stab and then hit it.
And make sure you get to practice with your off hand, your non-dominant hand.
So to say, I'll let you go back to your dominant hand. I've been mostly fighting left-handed.
legs.
Yeah, you stopped right
Bro,
as
that wasn't
you
intentional.
stabbed my butter, and you're like,
Before the break, there we go.
Oh, so I have my arms stuck. All right. Good. Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't hear you. Nope. I just saw that coming in, and I'm like, all right, we're making knots up. It's like, that's right. This stab's good. That's right. Oh, sorry.
I'm feeling more that, like I'm seeing the more openings when we're matching. I'm noticing more where to swing. Maybe my timing's a little slow. But
Yeah. You get that like where you see it and you don't swing and you're like, ah! Like that missed opportunity feeling. That's big.
I'm looking a little more confident with offhand stuff.
Good. Good.
The conscious footwork feels really good. Like
Yeah.
just like keeping in mind the range.
Good.
Yeah. Building off of that, personally for me, I need to relax, trust my hands a little, and focus more on making sure that those feet are moving, in particular that I'm consciously trying to read what my opponent's doing with their movement.
I like the trying to move forward when they're moving forward that you were talking about.
Yeah, that can be really helpful. Yeah, that's all really good stuff.
It doesn't matter.
Are there any questions you guys have after that?
But you see what I mean? And it happens all the time with order.
Oh, just need to apply it more.
Yeah, the more you apply it, the kind of the deeper down the rabbit hole you'll go. My whole goal with this is to give you enough parts and pieces that you can go home and you can get better at it on your own. You should have some problem solving. You know, we could easily stand here and be like, yeah, you know, to win fights, you do this, 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 and this, right? But I'd like for you guys to go home and actually have something that you can build from, versus just a bag of tools that you can then slaughter your local park with. And then once you learn it, you're like, oh, I need to go back and get some more tools, right?
Yeah, I was gonna say, do you have any like solo ways, I guess, of like practicing that like hand matching distance, or is it mostly you need a partner?
You don't necessarily need a partner. A lot of it is like thinking through the situation. You know, a lot of times it's just like, all right, well, if I throw out, you know, I know that shot's coming in. Where do I go from here? Do I go back out? Do I come in? You know, what does that look like? If I throw flat, where is it coming? If I throw, you know, with like an open hand back to the outside, is that going to draw them out? Is that going to draw them in? What's it look like if it does? You know, if it looks like they go back in, you know, where's my hand got to go for that? If they're gonna change it and come out, like where's my hand going for that? What opportunity do I have for that? Right? So you kind of like,
You're just practicing those movements, I guess, like getting to that.
yeah. I mean, just like thinking about what's the next step. Because when you're just like responding to a shadow fight, essentially, like, all right, well, they'll teach you to self-analyze what's coming next. You know, and if you don't see it, you don't see it. That's when you need a partner to practice with. Because if you're like, if I throw here, I don't know. I don't know what's coming. I don't know what's going to come next. I don't know where, like, what I should be worried about. In any given fight, if you come to a place where you're like, I don't know, I don't have a plan, I just need to break distance and get away so I can kind of regroup my thoughts and then have a plan. Like that solo thinking through patterns allows you to build a plan to fight your fight from. Instead of just stepping up and be like, okay, In this fight, I'm just gonna go, I'm gonna throw out and I'm gonna see what happens.
Yeah.
Right? So instead, because in your head you'd be like, all right, I'm gonna throw out, they're probably gonna come in, and I'm gonna go back out, or I'm gonna fake out and I'm gonna go in. Like, so say that's my plan.
You at least know your options are. Like, oh, if they swing here, then I can at least like push out and go here or something like that.
Right.
You're just thinking through.
You know, so if I've already thought through my plan where I'm like, you go in, and I'm like, you know, I'm like, oh, well, you didn't respond. So maybe I just hit you.
Yeah.
But then instead, it's, you go in, right, and I'm like, I'm gonna hit you.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, there's the block. Like, that's what I want, right? You know,
Yeah.
so I formed that plan. It's just it's a one back and forth plan.
You're going through like the branches of like, well, if they go here, then maybe a little bit this way or something.
Yeah. Or you can, or, you know, and that's all predicated on you going first.
Yeah.
If you are like, all right, well, if I'm going to go off of what somebody else is doing, how can I dictate that? If I have my hand here, start of the fight, chances are he's not going outside, right? Right? In a million years is he going to reach my outside arm? Unless he like tries to fake me and then I come screaming in. Right?
Yeah, I feel like you're baiting for me to go that way, so you could do exactly that.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah.
But even if I don't know, even the fastest person, if he gives me that much, way out here, it's,
Yeah, if I'm way out here,
there's no way.
Yeah.
right. Unless I'm super far away.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm like,
Come on.
This is my nightmare.
yeah.
Yeah.
Because this guy's gonna be this guy.
Yeah.
You know, like I don't know what's happening. He's slapping the ground. He has no, you know, sense of self-preservation.
Yeah.
I don't know what to do with that.
Just please leave.
Yeah.
Don't hit me in the head.
Throw me in the face. I had two things for you. So one of the things that you eventually, I think, want to achieve, right? When I'm fighting someone, I don't consciously at all think of the distance. If I think about it at all, it feels like a red light or a green light just inside my head. If I'm like walking around Aaron and it's red, right? I'm like red, like green, green, starting to get red, real red.
Yeah.
Right? And one of the drills that I used to do with a partner that helps a little bit with feeling it with swords is not so much you're trying to get each other, but just a drill where he's just defending and I'm just attacking. So you just got just a straight up guard where I'm practicing just coming strikes like this. And then I'm moving closer. You start to feel I'm too close. So he starts to move away as I aggress, right?
Yeah.
He wants to start to feel, when do I feel okay with our distance between us? Right? If I'm just coming in like this starts to feel, that's too close, right? I don't want you to fall over that. But we would do a lot of that to the point where you would just instinctively start to feel like, you know, this is okay, but like, you know, if he just stays still, this is way too close from how I feel, right? So that's a drill where you're not actively trying to like get each other. It's just more of a one person's working on blocking while they're just statically moving in, and you can change the rate and how quickly you move in.
Yeah.
And also you can then, you know, learn to move to the sides, lateral movement away from attacks, like that kind of stuff can all help that sense of distance.
Yeah, so you kind of go with like your comfort until you get like,
That's right, you start to feel it. Instead of, when both of you are moving in and out and aggressively, it's harder to start to feel that more.
A lot of things can happen, so it's like you don't necessarily
That's
know
right, yeah,
where
yeah.
you messed up.
And the more simple you can make it, the easier it is to focus on the things that you want to focus on.
Gotcha.
And I don't know
what
if
I
they-
can bring back to like other new people, especially like college rounds and stuff.
Yeah. And then like, you know, solo ways, the only thing I was thinking is if, I don't know, they've got some kind of like remote sensor thing where if you get within a certain distance, it'll beep.
Yeah.
So you could like, you know, beep, 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 do your attack and then practice getting out to where the beeping stops.
Yeah.
This is covering my arm.
I have no other, otherwise, no idea.
Yeah.
I mean, you can do pel work and stuff and like simulate, like, you know, my pel is like sort of shaped like a pair of shoulders and a pair of hips. And I almost never pel. I did when I was younger to like learn how to throw different shots like safely with my joints, how to generate power. But at a certain point, got that down, you don't need to spend a ton of time on it other than refreshing or maybe warming up or maintaining strength, you know, if you're not fighting a lot. But, you know, you can just simulate a fight. Like, all right, well, here's the throw. Yeah, I think that's the danger. Here's the throw. That's the danger. Here's the throw. That's definitely the danger. Right?
Yeah, I think just figuring out the options before you get into the fight is very good. Instead of figuring it out when you're like, all right,
Yeah.
this is where I'm going to learn.
And not only a plan for what you're going to do, but I often have pre-planned a plan to get out if things don't work. I very rarely will want to come in and be like, all right, I'm gonna fake on the inside and see if I can get him to bite on it and go outside or something, and then just stay there. Right. Very rarely am I like, oh, I got it, cool, I win. But if he blocks it, right, I don't just stay here, right? I would have a plan where I'm like, and then I want to get out too.
Yeah, I feel like practicing the retreats and underutilized thing.
Yep.
Especially for me.
Yep. You know, what I've done in the past is like put 2 lines on the ground. And on the front line, you know, and I'll have like serious lines, and I'll try to step to a certain line, and I'll try to retreat. So I'll step and throw, I'll step off, and I'll try to go back to my original line. And as I get like, you know, especially with my knee rehab, as I got stronger, like I could step further and comfortably step back.
There's margin for error.
And the further you lunge forward, the harder it is to lunge all the way back.
I might have some like personal questions about it. Because I did break my leg at one point, so it's like my left leg's significantly weaker than my right.
Yeah.
So I guess personally, like how you modified it to like get back in the game.
Without like, until I like actually laid stuff down where I could see it, it's so hard to identify like, oh gosh, like my left foot forward was so much stronger than my right foot forward, or vice versa. You're like, man, I need to strengthen this leg. I need this. You know, this is the leg I need to be jumping rope with. Right? I need to get stronger here. I need to correct this weakness. But for me, it was hard to self-analyze that until I could draw it out where I could see it.
I mean, the biggest thing was the beginning of the class where I was like, oh, my range is so off with this left leg because I'm not strong enough to push back as much as I am with this leg.
Sure.
Yeah.
Well, that would be a great place to start.
Yeah.
Anyone else? I mean, the best thing you guys can do is practice with both hands. I mean, what other than fighting, do you do anything with your offhand to be better with it? Or is it just 35 years of fighting?
Well, so when I would do single blue practice, I would almost always practice non-dominant hand because it's going to be my most common. Like if I fight sword and board, I'm mostly going to get hit on the arm first and switch to left. So I wanted my left to be stronger, but I don't have any like exercises or anything to like make my left hand stronger. I think just fighting consistently, practicing consistently is probably the easiest or the best thing. Just give your non-dominant hand a fair amount of practice and work, because I think practicing with both lets you recognize angles and attacks better than only ever reacting to right-handed, when you got a right-handed defense.
Yeah. There's a level of comfort that you need to achieve with your non-dominant hand to really be able to go into a tournament and be like, it's more effective for me to hand match. Until your non-dominant hand is super competent, it's almost always better to go in with a hand that is competent. In a single blue like tournament setting, I hand match everybody. But over the last 15 years, all of the time, the amount of time that I've spent practicing sword fighting, but 75% of that is single sword with my left hand. And my left hand is still not as good as my right. That's a lot of time. some people are more ambidextrous than I am, I guess. My left hand is very good. But it just takes, because it's not your non-dominant hand. And I do like to master room my daily tasks with my non-dominant, just to make it better. Brush my teeth, wipe my ass. I write with my left hand. I operate tools sometimes with my left hand. You know, I would spend time like driving nails, and I would switch to my left hand and drive nails. You know, like everything I could to strengthen my non-dominant hand. Where my work goes like fine motor controls and surviving required. And even today, it's like, you know, you talk to some of the guys that I fight on a regular basis, and they're like, you know, the left hand is super dangerous, yeah, but the right hand is like a real problem. It's just not. I wish my left was a real problem too. It is, but it's not. It's not like that. So you, in order to hand match in tournament settings, or really be like a lockdown hand matcher, you really need to practice. No getting it.
I think one of the last benefits too of hand matching that I take for granted that I do all the time is that it affords you a block and a strike at the same time, whereas an offhanded rarely lets, like if we're fighting like this offhanded, very rarely is he going to throw on me and me and you be in a position where I can kind of also like strike. It's a really awkward thing for me to try. I'll block and then hit, but very rarely both. But I find very often, like if we're starting here and he goes anywhere outside, all I have to do is have my hand come out to meet where the strike is coming, and I'm automatically swinging at the same time. I'm not like blocky swinging. It's just he comes out and then, you know, it's safe.
Right.
It's a very safe reaction. I just kind of watch where the hand goes. If it's coming low, I kind of keep a little lower. If it's coming, you know, higher, I stay higher.
Right.
But at that time, it's safe, and there's an exchange that he literally has no chance to come back from. So I find a lot of that will block out. You can be doing defense while you're doing offense with hand matching when you can't do that offhanded.
So, like, how much does like your skill with hand matching translate to like being okay with like doing like flow stuff? Is it how much of it is I'm a good hand matcher, and how much of it is I'm just good with both hands? Like, does that as there overlap? I mean,
That's a good question. It's a huge benefit. You know, like to me, fighting two sword is just one long day of hand matching everybody. You know, like I see a left-handed fighter and I get all giddy, like a left-handed board mix. I'm like, oh, well, right hand gets to come out and be the front hand. You know, I'm like, oh, you poor bastard, you're a right-hander, or you're a lefty. Like, it's on. There's a huge benefit. You know, if both hands are dangerous, if both hands understand what they need to do when they're forward, massive. If two sword is your jam, then you got the hand matching will help you, and the principles therein. But then also understanding that range, it's incredible. If you're fighting two sword, you can maintain range control to the point where the body is not a target. Then all of the stabs that a boardman put on you are not even. It's huge.
Kind of what you were saying just during the drill. You know, you were fine with your dominant hand on matching range, but you were finding it more difficult doing it with non-dominant hand, like matching range. So if you don't hand match and don't practice your non-dominant hand, it's not just that you're not as good with your sword, but you're also just not good at reading range and all kinds of other byproducts of that 100% affect other fighting, flow or whatever.
Or even board fighting.
Or even board.
You know, if you're a lefty board, use a constant. If you're a righty board, you fight left-handed people all the time. Use a constant. In fighting, the partner that I use the most to spar with is a left-handed board. Chadwick's still incredibly good. He doesn't come out very much anymore, but he's still incredibly good. But because of that, I feel like I've always had a leg up. I've had a lot of practice fighting those lefties. Where our swords are on the same lane versus sword on shield and shield on sword.
When you're hand matched versus a board, just like you were saying, like use these two kind of setups that tend to work well for me. Do you have any anything like that works well when you're fighting a boardman, particularly because that inside lane is a lot more locked down?
Some of the best things you can do fighting a boardman, especially fighting single sword, is that what you're asking?
Flow, but yes, single, particularly. What can I do with that?
One of my favorite things to practice was single sword versus a boardman. That's a ton of fun to practice. And you hand match. If I hand match a boardman, if I'm hand matching Treethump as a boardman, right? If I don't hand match, like my body is just so much closer, and he's got a shield in the way of his body, right? So it's doubly important to hand match the sword hand. What?
Can we see the interesting side?
So like I said, it's doubly important to be hand matching because this is like this is just a recipe for disaster. The only reason you fight like this is if you're just down your left arm, right? And then in that instance, then I need to stay super far away, and I need to basically have my hand in the way of their sword at all times. So he's got to come around if he wants to hit. So I hand match the board. Striking somebody that has a board, going around their board and killing them with speed is really fun and flashy, but it's incredibly hard. It's a constant board. It's just, if I run into somebody that's like really no threat and I know I could just strike them, then I'll do something fancy or fun, or like, I'll try something. I might be like, try to, come under their shield or do something incredibly dangerous that I wouldn't do if it was a real fight. Coming up against Treethump, I would never in a million years go for that fight. I might threaten it enough that he has to respect it. But this is a recipe for disaster. I'm going to focus on having my hand in the way, so he has to come around my sword in order to get me. And I'm going to maintain distance so he can't hit my body. And it's all, I'm going to keep that going. I keep my hand in the way at all times, so that he just doesn't have the opportunity to hit me. He's got a shield, so he's going to feel like he can reach around things because he'll compensate with that shield that my hand, with my other dead hand or whatever, doesn't have. Right? When I add another weapon into the mix, I can be, I can move my hand out of the way as long as I have a piece of gear in it. But if I don't have that piece of gear, then I'm stuck. Yeah, sure. Like if I have this sword introduced, like now, it's okay for me to reach out of the way as long as I have something to defend myself. Like then I can be a little more, then my hand can be wherever it wants to, as long as I'm safe. But when I don't have this, it's got to do it all. Right? Let him reach. Do you guys want to practice that, fighting against boardmen with your single sword?
Absolutely.
It's great practice. Yeah, just let it rip.
It's so hard to get people to do it because you go on the field and they're like, oh, I'll switch. And it's like, no, don't switch. I want to just go against you with the board.
It's fun.
I will make sure next time. So that like leg fake in the shoulder. That's exactly right. I don't care about that. I don't think I've ever really gone back and everything. But I did my job. You're right.
Remember, maintaining that distance is extra important. So if they can strike your body, it's a lot to keep track of.
Do like a step out fake and then just go and go.
You step any limb out of behind that shield every time. Maybe it'll just be everyone should be terrified of stepping across the single. Everyone's got that back of the line. I got one leg, I never want to get leg. Got it.
Is there value in, say, so like I walk up and I say in hand matching with left, I have the ability to if I wanted to.
Well, I'm predominantly sort of board fighter.
That's something that you like are comfortable with.
Okay, I would say I wasn't sure like if like hand matching on shield has advantages or like or I mean
I'm sure there is. For whatever reason, like if there's a shield in my right hand, I mean, it's like sock dice. So I can't very much out of that. But yeah, I mean, spin was always a good play around with it. If you find the hand matching really your jam, take it as far as you want.
okay.
Whether it's with a shield or not.
Never in range. I don't even have to look in a street.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other thing, the only time I would that I feel like I'd re-engage in that is if I lost an arm or if
My brother had those. Like that. I don't know. He always walked on his toes. Get away. Like my calves were good just from sword fighting for so long, but like these are just like not by large.
What's your thoughts on that? My brain's telling me
Yeah, so I catch you there, and now
I think I was swinging at the same time with you as I came out. Yeah.
Kenny was
Still like hard.
Yeah. Yeah, like I know I'm gonna get this as I swing at you, so I'm like, oh, it's late as I'm swinging. Right?
you're like aggressive, you're an aggression.
Something that like
on a strap, like, are they fun for the strap? Are they bad for the shot? Right. I'm like, man, I'm so good at this. Oh no, like, and I will lunge. I'm like, I don't care.
How did the cards? I saw that on the schedule. Cards. There's 6 cards.
That's an I have knee pads, but they're like really worn out. I'm not wearing.
So every instructor. You take an instructor's card.
Where do you want to put your camera?
Yeah, they're saying
But like, if you're like, that doesn't matter. But like, if you swing, I can still.
How you feeling?
Yeah.
Feeling good. I just want some water.
It still like is a big huge lunge, but not much escape. It's like.
I see. So kind of.
If someone could be aboard.
I'm feeling water break.
Go right ahead. That's what we're here for. Right? Just keep Whoop! I'm sorry. I didn't like just blast.
Yeah, you're welcome.
It went through. It was kind of like a.
Yeah. Better than the last one.
Yeah. Yeah, great. I'm glad you enjoyed it.
You got me. I don't think I was time. I think you caught me in the huff.
Redirect, go on your field.
Yeah.
You only have one weapon. Good. But I can also like, you can try to range control me, but like you're wanting me to be like here. I can just try to like focus my game. Yeah. And this is part of what I'm looking at I was like, wait. No, you got there.
Yeah, right there. Let's just reset because we're going to do it.
One of them is guessing up between 1 and 10.
Yeah.
He just goes up and he's like,
Yeah. It's like you block it. I was like, no, I'm just gonna make it this fucking thing.
I was thinking like people come in. They're going 10. Thanks for coming.
I just like stepped in right into this space and it looked like you just froze.
Oh, I was trying to move back, but there was like lag.
It was like
forward.
like wham.
Yeah.
It's like this shot. This is like really trying to throw.
Yeah, it's movement. I think is part of this. When I'm like up against, like there's complexity. So
I'm not like necessarily easy.
well, part of it is what I find at in college where there's a lot of newer people, so I don't always get this level of complexity.
I love it.
Good. No. If it was, you got my butt. Really good. Both cheeks. Yeah.
Oh, there's different.
So like,
I need a better answer there.
you can like totally jab the shit out of my board if you want to. Like, I don't care if you're trying to forward articulate.
Well, honestly, like, so
I also have
the two answers cross like that. single sword insert would be crossover.
I do have a fair bit of reach. So this is like me forward foot forward. But then if I was like this, like this is sword foot forward.
I don't know.
Oh, I just played with that. Okay. So you get like 6 inches.
You know, it is.
Because I was doing like a bit of forward foot, and then when I was doing
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So I'm like,
Well, it happens
really
to
getting that.
Brandon all the time fighting.
I think
All the time he's like, why didn't I do anything? You know? And part of it is just you're forcing them into like decisions, and they just get into like block decision mode, and especially when there's no contact. So like if we were blocking, right? And I came in, I was like, yeah, right. You're just like, you're waiting for the contact, and it's not coming. It almost freezes your brain. It's like you can't unlock until you feel that block.
Yeah, I really want to get out of like playing their game and not just doing mine. It's like if you're just some new person that has no idea what you're doing, that's usually when it's like, and it doesn't work at all.
Yeah.
that's why when I shifted all my shit over, I switched over.
class in the shade. Yeah, I caught that. Like it's still there. Stole all the cat. Some of the dark side guys though. They're just.
Yeah, especially like the punch shields. Yeah. I didn't bring my punch shield, otherwise I would be like, hey, we can do that too.
No, you got bounced off. Came into it.
It's probably great to see.
I'm just striking at the same time. That's like a
No. Commentary on that. I'll give you later.
Yeah. Oh, gotcha.
Because there's a distinct difference between what you're doing and what I'm trying to do.
Yeah.
I was like, haha, I'm gonna throw like, I see your shot, so I'm instinctively like block shooting. Like, I'm like, yeah, I'm like, it's true, I'm like, I'm throwing a shot that's also a block.
I do that a lot. So I'm like, I say that, I know exactly what that is, and I should like done with it.
Talking about my mental health, I learned all like biomechanical ways of functioning. Like I've learned that my depression is serotonin based, dopamine based. My body doesn't feel depression, so it doesn't tell my serotonin to do serotonin. My brain makes serotonin.
That I should have mixed that stab though.
Biomechanical.
I don't think you love that.
So that, from a physical standpoint, was really, really cool.
Well, so I went here with the stab. At that moment, it looked like when I was open.
While while simultaneously saying that's dumb nerd shit. Yeah. Science, no, that's for nerds. Yeah.
No, that's fine. That's what it's there for. Keep me from getting hit.
There's that like thing where like if I strike like here, you gotta like go away from like, you know that thing where like you do like this? It's like when you do that, if I aggress like this, then you like back up that way with the block. But then if I do this one and you back up like that way, I know, but like that's like, or like out of line of like the direction. I was like, that's gonna take forever for me to get used to. That's how like Morpheus is like, haha, I'm like, I am not in existence here.
Practice doing it both ways, honestly.
It feels really,
Because you just throw that one on the inside. If I get here, I got cool. Like, bring your foot back. Like, and now we're really in a place where we're fighting here.
and then it's like, can I throw this shot?
Yeah, at that point, like, I've gone ahead, you got that initial, sometimes you just get that.
That would be me purely relying on the fact that I have speed and I have it almost as like
I remember that first hit, like, hit the internet and like all over the past. I picked up some clever, have that one. Haven't touched it, but I have it. I have it. Here.
At this point, I can go up.
Actually, what I should do. So for like
when I step here and block.
yeah.
Stab center body mass. Brain goes dumb in fights sometimes.
The thing is, brain goes down in fights. My gut, if someone actually
wish.
it would be a good better option. Walk like this. Walk over the, not compromising.
I've never had the lifting
Like
weights
kind of
on
the flow or like singles.
I'm just thinking for a second.
I don't like the repetition. I like
Now that I have like
my bending is
the
not
knowledge
fighting
base
or
of
like
like
jujitsu.
it's happening. Okay, so I'm going for this fake stab.
If you step out later in the shot,
Yeah, you're like going into like chest is so close across body it's, that you're just swinging.
Yeah.
Because you're gonna get it anyways. You're safe.
Rules are meant to be followed.
Yeah, one of the things I do a lot of
so
in terms of the range,
if you do that,
safe range is to stay engaged at.
Yeah.